I'm going to talk about the history of blepharoplasty, which is commonly called the blind lead surgery, and Asian American women. Um, I would like to start this with a concept hypervisibility. Hypervisibility means that people of minority are put under surveillance. It often creates some feelings that they are being stared, watched, they are unwelcomed, and eventually they don't belong to that place. I think to discuss this hypervisibility in terms of women's beauty practice is really important because it explains why women put a lot of money and effort and energy on fashion and beauty. Media often just attributes that the women are so dumb and they're so superficial and they just unconditionally follow the order of beauty and the fashion industry. But we all know that we are not that dumb. But still, it is true. A lot of women spend money and time for making themselves more beautiful. Um, while I was preparing for this topic, I read a beauty column which is about diet, and it says your body is not embarrassing in no matter what shape. It is beautiful, it is not ugly, but if your body is really different from what people think as normal, it will attract attention and very negative attention. And that attention is actually making you ashamed of, and that's why you need a diet. The first thing that I thought after I read it is very fat shaming, even though it pretends it is not. And the second thing is that it explains really well how women were pressured to make themselves beautiful. A lot of women actually try to spend a lot of money and time to make themselves beautiful, not just because they just want to be beautiful, but they don't want to be ugly and don't want to get this kind of a negative attention. And for women of color, actually, it is a double burden because their bodies are often defined by um, certain racial traits, like African American women's good hair issue. Like everybody just look at their hair and just try to judge them by that body parts. And for Asian American women, it is usually I. I got this picture from 2017, relatively recent. This soccer player found himself in the middle of controversy because he pulled his outer corner of his eyes to his opposite soccer team, which was actually South Korea. Um, this gesture, which is called chinky eye, it is the most infamous and somehow universal form of racial insult to Asian Americans and especially people with East Asian ancestries because they are known to have long, narrow, slanted eyes. And we cannot say this chinky eye gesture is not related to the popularity of blepharoplasty. This is a chart in 2020. It shows that which plastic surgery is most popular among which racial or ethnic groups, and it shows that among Asian and Pacific Islanders, blepharoplasty is most popular, along with rhinoplasty. It was both 11%. Um, and because I'm a historian, we are a historian, I have to see why this blepharoplasty and why this like a racial stereotype of East Asians are always related to the eye. And I have to go back to 19th century. We all know that in 19th century, a lot of European countries were involved in colonial projects, and they encountered a lot of non-European people, and they also colonized them. To do this project, they need some kind of a justification to prove actually Europeans were destined to do that, and it is okay because these people were inferior. Um, and one of that kind of a justification was physiognomy. physiognomy is a sort of a belief system or some of pseudoscience that a person's face actually reflected their true self. Physiognomy itself was appeared in ancient Greece and it actually has been pretty popular in East Asia too. There is a really fun movie about the 14th century Korean physiognomist. But the 19th century European physiognomy is different because of its association with colonialism and racism. And these physiognomists try to make himself as a scientific discipline. But these physiognomists rely on their arbitrary decision and Eurocentric aesthetics. So they just decided that any kind of a Eurocentric European body features are pretty and beautiful. And if it is pretty, it is morally good. And in that same logic, a lot of bodily features of non-European peoples were just decided that they're not ugly, and as a sign of their racial inferiority and their morally bad nature. And I want to focus on in this picture that the picture of the deceitful eye. These physiognomists believe that the eyes are the window of their soul, and a lot of East Asians had some heavy upper eyelid. So this eyelid covers their window of their soul. So it hides their true feelings and true themselves, which also kind of related to another stereotype that the East Asians are very quiet and they don't show themselves. They don't like it's really hard to read them. And also because it is the eyes are covered, they are very deceitful and untrustworthy. And medical doctors also participated in this trend. They some of the doctors who were studying the Down syndrome, they find out that a lot of their patients had upper eyelid covers the inner corner of their eyes, which is called epicanthic fold. And they made very simple logic. Since people with Down syndrome have this epicanthic fold, it means this epicanthic fold is just a sign of their intellectual disability, I would say. And these East Asians also have this epicanthic fold. So let's just say these East Asians are just dumb and they're just intellectually not bright. And so they are very racially wrong, racially inferior. And these kind of stereotypes created in the 19th century were reinforced by Hollywood movies and other public cultures. This movie is The Mask of Fu Manchu, which was in 1931. This movie is about a villainous character, Fu Manchu. He was a Chinese, but he somehow wanted to destroy the Western civilization for the reason that they never explained. He himself claimed as the reincarnation of Genghis Khan, who always instigates Western imagination of these dangerous East Asians, even though he killed more East Asians than Europeans. In this movie, the right picture is the main actor of the Mask of Fu Manchu. He is Boris Karloff. This picture shows that how he wears some makeup to make himself more look like East Asian. He wore some sponge and some special tapes to make these long, narrow, slanted eyes with heavy upper eyelid. And the left picture is a picture of another actor, Lon Chaney. He is showing how to use this special tape to make these slanted eyes. And this kind of negative stereotypes created and reinforced by movies, they contributed to make some series of Asian exclusive political decisions. The history of East Asian immigration in the U.S. started in the middle of 19th century with the gold rush and the railroad in California. But somehow they were too efficient workers, and some white workers found them very threatening their job security. So they started some negative movement toward these Asian American workers. Um, in this process, Asian Americans were categorized as unassimilable aliens who refused to be part of the U.S. And in 1924, the new immigration law totally blocked the new Asian immigration, and also they were made as ineligible for naturalization. Also there were a series of civil laws in California for anti-miscegenation. In Also, in World War II, the negative stereotypes of East Asia were heavily reinforced because of the Pearl Harbor, but the U.S. Army was in a kind of a problem because Japanese were their enemy, but Chinese were their allies. But a lot of Americans could not figure out who's actually who. So they made some pamphlets how to spot your Japanese enemy from good Chinese friend. But these descriptions heavily focus on their shape of eyes, like this pamphlets say this Chinese eyes look like this and Japanese eyes look like this, even though all of these descriptions are very wrong. But because of these anti-Japanese campaigns, they were categorized as and understood as non like Americans, and their citizenships were deprived and their loyalty to the country was heavily suspected. And somehow, even though Chinese and Korean Americans were against Japanese because of their physical resemblance, they were also under suspicion. So during the World War II, a lot of Asian American communities were heavily concerned about how to prove their loyalty to the United States. And this picture of a grocery store, they just put a big sign that I'm American. And even their struggle for assimilation was about how to not just about in sorry, I will just put this way. They tried a lot of way for assimilation, but also they tried to put the right American face on. And Shimakito, he is the first Asian American recorded in history as the first person who received this eyelid surgery and also get a nose job to make himself look like more American. He wanted to marry a white girl, but her parents really hated him because of his Asianness. So he received some plastic surgery, eye job, and nose job, and he even changed his name into William White. And he could get to marry this girl. And in the internment camp, a lot of Japanese Americans held beauty pageants because beauty pageants was very Euro-American tradition. They wanted to entertain some of these camp residents, but also try to prove they embrace this American way of life. And in this picture, these participants, all of them wear this Western style just dress and high heels. And the middle of this picture, she is actually the winner, the beauty queen, and she wears some like a white dress, a little look like wedding dress. And they all cut their hair in American style. It was the classic for tourist style, and they wear lead lipsticks, and we can see all of them wear very heavy eye makeup. And after the World War II, Chinese Americans also adopted this kind of a tradition. They started the Miss Chinatown beauty pageants, and all of these participants, they wear high heel, even though they wear chipao, which is the Chinese dress. But they all have their hairstyles, which is really hard. All of them wear very heavy eye makeup to show that they have like a bigger round eyes. And this is a picture of the another Miss Chinatown events of 1960s, and they keep curling their hair and red lipsticks, and they all wear gloves, which is very non-East Asian tradition. And the winner is wearing tiara. And the plastic surgeons also heavily promoted this idea of physical assimilation. This person, he's Dr. David Ralph Millard. He was a plastic surgeon stationed in South Korea after the Korean War. He was there to restore the injured face of Korean War veterans. But while he was in Korea, he learned how to perform this blepharoplasty. I will show you how to do this plastic surgery. This blepharoplasty was first invented in late 19th century by a Japanese physician, Kotaro Mikamo. But this plastic surgery is to make bury a suture under the skin to pull skin really hard, so you can create some round big eyes. David Lark Millard, he learned this surgery in Korea, and he performed surgery to some of the people he met. The first patient he recorded is his translator. This translator was planning to study in the US, but he was worried that because of his shape of eyes, his American colleague would find him very untrustworthy and deceitful. So he asked Millard to perform this plastic surgery. And Millard did, and he was very proud of himself. He recorded that because of this surgery, he looks like Hispanic, not East Asian. But even though his first patient was a Korean man, most of his patients and beneficiaries were Korean women. These women were sort of a sex worker who was assigned to have relationship with the U.S. soldiers, not other Korean soldiers. She was worried that because of her face, U.S. soldiers didn't like her, so she couldn't make a lot of money. And she went to Millard, and he performed this surgery. And he said because of this surgery, she could attract more soldiers and she could make more money. And another group of women that he said would as a beneficiary was a Korean woman who married U.S. soldiers. He wrote that even though these U.S. soldiers found their exotic look very beautiful in this exotic setting, but if they move back to U.S., they would just suddenly find them like least unattractive because of their exotic look. This woman, she was already married to one of the soldiers and planning to immigrate in the U.S. But she just worried about the same reason, so she got this surgery, and Millard was very proud of himself. And there is another woman. There is another plastic surgery, Dr. Donald Moynihan. he wrote a memoir about his long history of practice, and he wrote about another this kind of a Korean woman who married a U.S. soldier. Her name was Sukyoung Hong. She married to this soldier, even though her parents really didn't like about this relationship, and she was actually from an elite class family, so she could marry some another Korean man, but she just decided to marry this guy. For her, it was some sort of a Romeo and Juliet situation, and then she immigrated into the U.S. But her husband suddenly decided not to like her anymore. Dr. Moynihan was very upset about her story. He wrote that so he knew her shape of eyes and nose all the time, and suddenly he disliked her. It is very weird. It is he really didn't want to do that, but since she wanted, so he just performed this surgery. And he wrote that she was pretty pleased about herself after that. So for this woman who married these soldiers and who cut all of their ties from their family, this plastic surgery was sort of a way for survival to maintain relationship, because they only depend on this relationship, and also to assimilate their physical appearance into these new different settings. And I really want to say it is not a problem anymore, but Julie Chen, she was a CBS TV show host. She confessed in 2013 that at the early part of her career, she heard that because of the shape of her eyes, other people didn't like her, so she would be better to receive this surgery, and she did. And in this picture, she still wear very high, heavy eye makeup with this fake eyelash. Um, so it is still a big problem, and we all watched it that during the COVID-19, there were a boom of Asian hate crimes. A lot of people were under suspicion, even though it is for different reason. So it's still an ongoing problem.